Hey everyone, this is William. This is actually part two of a two-part series of creating a linear model. So just a very simple linear regression. This is basically for beginners. So let's get into it. So we'll have assumed you have seen my previous video. So version 4. So I will play around with the diamonds dataset, which comes with ggplot. So firstly, load up the library ggplot2. So I actually have saved this as a CSV, so I just like to get into the practice of it. So call it, do I call it again? How about let's call it my data. So my data is equal to read.csv. So this is actually where it's stored in my computer. And make sure you put strings as true. So strings as factors is true. So we'll actually treat the strings as factors, and that's how it should be. Okay. So if you have seen my previous video and you've played around with the diamonds dataset, you should probably already know how it looks like. So I'm just going to do a simple regression, a y by x for price, and let's see what could be very interesting. How about let's go with carat. Yeah, it's a numerical value. Let's keep it simple. Okay. So firstly, I have done this before, and this is actually a very large data set. So I'm just going to subset my data set just so you can actually see it. So my data. The reason I'm subsetting it is because when you actually plot it out, it actually does take quite a while to plot it out. So I'm just going to narrow it down. So let's just say I'm just curious for the ones that are in, let's go with cut fair. That should cut some of them down. So just the diamonds that are in, and make sure it's exactly how it says there. Okay, subset cut. Oh yeah, I forgot this. Let's see. Okay. So you can see now it's actually much smaller. So they'll just make my plots faster to load. You don't actually have to do this. So, you know, a linear regression is pretty much just a y is equal to mx plus c for just a y by x pretty much. So how about we plot this out? So I'm just calling it plot A, ggplot, my data. So remember your x is carat and your y is price because you're trying to predict the price. So geom point, and to some of you this actually might be new, so this is actually called geom smooth. So I'm just going to show you what geom smooth is, and as always in all my videos, if you don't know what you can actually put in there, just so you'll see what it does. So firstly, let's do it without it. So I'm just gonna highlight that area. Okay. And let's see what happens when you actually put that in there. So he actually tries to make like a trend line. However, you can see down here the method, it's called GAM. GAM actually means general additive method, and the formula is not a y by x. So I'm just going to show you what you would actually do if it was a y by x. Formula is equal to y. So y and tilde means by x. And also the method that we want to use is linear models. So LM. So let's just run that. So the reason you can't see is because you actually have to call this plot. So if I had just run this, then you would see that. So that little gray area is actually your confidence intervals. You can actually remove them or you can leave them as is. For the moment, I'm just going to leave them. So let's say, yeah, I've got my trend line, but I want to know what the coefficients are and I want to actually plot them into my graph. So firstly, we need to know what the coefficients are. So I'm going to use just a linear model. So this comes with base R. So LM. So you can see here it takes a formula, data set, and there's a couple of other things that you can take in as well. And there's always examples. So if you don't know what they are, just use your best friends YouTube and Google. Stack Overflow possibly. Anyway, let's call it my model. You can call it whatever you want. LM. So my data is actually this one here. My data. And the formula that I'm interested in is price by caret. Okay. Excellent. So what now? So how about my model? We pull it. So right there it just tells you, okay, your model is actually that. So those are your coefficients. So for example, your intercept, it would be your C, and your caret would be your M, your slope pretty much. So I'm actually gonna put them as variables and you'll see why. So I can actually put them into my plot. So I'm just gonna call this intercept, and as you can see, returns a whole bunch of stuff. So if I had gone into this here, it's actually an object. There's a lot of things in there. So I'm only interested in the coefficients. So the dollar sign tells you how to get to it, and it's actually got two columns or two values in there really. So my intercept is actually my model, and it's, so you can see it's coefficients, and because your intercept is actually the first value here, that will be 1, and your M, which is your slope, it will be your second one, my model. So let's just run this. So you can see now it's actually a value which comes from there. So just make sure you've got them in the right order. So your intercept is that, your slope or your M is that. So great. So now I can actually start using them into my plots. So how about let's copy and paste this. I'm just going to bring this down so you can actually read this. So if you actually, let's see, where do I want to put my formula in my plot? So but you actually have to manually tell it where to put it in. So a great place would be somewhere over here. So let's go var x is equal to 2, and let's go this. I'm just going to give it a guess, 22,000. So plus, and if you actually want to put a label in there, it's called geom label, and you have to give it the coordinates. So I'm just manually 2, so just 2. Your y, I'm just gonna go 22,000, I'm sorry. And what do you actually want to put in there? So I'm going to use a function. If you're a beginner, you might not be aware of it. It's called paste. So there's actually 2 versions of paste. You can always look at what they actually mean. So I'm just going to have this one. So paste will actually, you can paste, for example, those values and also text. So make this easier to read. So I'll do paste, and I'm actually going to paste what am I going to paste? Oh yeah, so quotation marks. So this is actually text. Y is equal to that, comma, and your M, so this M is actually from there, comma, and then your X. And I'm just going to give it a bit of space, and then I'm going to do intercept, and I'm going to separate them. So separate is just how to separate them, so just do that. So you could use paste 0 if you wanted to. So I'm just gonna get rid of this white space here. I'm just gonna run that. And then I'm just gonna see how it looks like. Plot A. As you can see, it does take a while. That's why I reduced from 54,000 to whatever. Okay, that's not a great place to put it. Oh yeah, right there. Let's run it again. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's a bit too much digits for me. How about we reduce this? So we're going to use a function called round. So round pretty much tells you how many digits you want, really. So spend some time looking at that. There's different types. There's ceiling, floor, truncate, round, and there's, of course, there's some examples. Remember, if you're in doubt, YouTube, Google. So let's go back. So I think 2 is enough. So how about let's do this again. However, we're gonna have to do it here. So round. So these are the numbers these are the values that need to be rounded. So I'm just gonna round them down to 2. And do the same thing here. Just give it some space so you can actually read my code. And then I'm just going to run these again. Okay, and then I'm going to run this again. plot A. Okay, it's much more neater. And of course, you can always, give it a title, the change the values of your x-axis, your themes, etc. So that's just a very simple example. So thanks for your time. This is William, and until next time.